to talk about when you just need to get more clarity about your brand and what is a personal umbrella brand. On the Impact Brand Doctor podcast with Rich Kozak, I want you to check out these rich strategy nuggets that you can use right now. This is the Brand Doctor podcast, where we positively uplift possibilities for personal and business brands, and we give you straight talk you can trust. You probably need some clarity in your brand, or maybe you feel stuck at the starting gate to the next level of your brand. In any case, you are welcome to bring your vision and your challenges right here to the Brand Doctor podcast. Today, we are lifting up the brand journey of David Chametzky, founder of the brand Your Time to Soar, elevating you on a higher path. Author of the forthcoming book, When Your Heart Says It's Your Time to Soar. He's a personal coach. David's a creator of coaching programs at several levels. He's a podcaster on the increasingly famous New York podcast, Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. Dave speaks to groups about the important things in life. He's a giver. I call him a philanthropic impresario. We can go into that later if we want. David Chametzky, I know that many of our listeners' businesses and frankly, their lives will benefit from what they hear today on the show. So welcome, friend.
Well, thank you so much. I don't know who you just introduced, other than the New York. We're New York based, but we're internationally. We were number 5 in Uganda. So and we've been on 6 of the 7 continents.
Congratulations, Dave. You have a lot of ways that you serve others, and you create language, and you love to name things. What has it taken for you to get grounded and ready for your brand to get through the gate to its next level?
Well, getting grounded is easy for me. That's one of the things I do to get mental clarity. But that being that part of the journey is easy. The brand clarity, that was really a huge challenge. Before I met Rich, or Dr. Rich, I had all these ideas, right? One of the first times we met, I had, look at all these logos. They're so cool. They're amazing. And they all were, and they all are. But nobody understood what they were. I would throw out words that like Kluberty, and I loved it. I got a trademark in it. It's great. It's awesome. But nobody knew what it was. Nobody understands it, except for me, which was really nice for me. But that's not the way to run a business. So the grounding part is to realize that while I do have a lot of spokes, a lot of things that you shared on your intro, the real answer is not only do I have a lot of things to do, but now it's congruent. They all tie in. The wheel, it's not just a bunch of spokes going out. They're all part of the wheel moving forward along my journey, along my path.
And it took you taking a step at a time through a process that bakes that clarity into your brand and then creates, let's call it an Uber brand or an umbrella brand, where all of those elements of things you do and things you've named now, let's use the word fit. Before, people might have said, I don't get how they're connected. And now, as a part of it's your time to soar, elevating you on a higher path. Every one of those pieces now fits. It makes sense. Congratulations on
Completely
on spending that step-by-step process time. So the story behind the curtain, if you will, is that David and I have spent some time going through the 7 steps of impact-driven branding, and that's kind of what we're relating to. David has been a great student. David, you have such a great heart for others. It's always there when you speak. It's always there when you work. many times those whose heart uh, leads them are not great branding champions for their own brand. Um, what about branding challenges you right now?
Yeah, it's a great question. I still, have struggles with it. We're not perfect, because I still have so many different pieces. How do I make sure that I'm congruent into what the brand message is? I'm in here. I have a podcast. You were talking about my New York podcast. It's called
Yeah.
Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat, which is not necessarily congruent when you just first hear about, time to soar or being on your path. When I first started explaining that piece, then it now fits in together. And that was a challenge because I had all these great ideas and but Rich, I had a logo. Come on. But
Hmm.
the answer is if nobody understood the logo, that was a challenge. The challenge is sometimes getting out of our own way. And that is really powerful because I've been in my own way with great ideas. But if it's not clear to everybody else, that's why when you have a clear message and a clear brand, it really helps you overcome sometimes getting in your own way.
Well, thanks, Dave. So staying congruent with a brand that's been defined and clearly languaged, it's always a choice. You're on a stage or you're on a podcast and it's always a choice. But once that work's been done, it's much, much easier to stay on track. May I tell you a story and share it with the listeners? I have a client named Carol who spent years at universities where an increasing percentage, now it's up to 40% of brand new university students quit, drop out, hit what Carol has defined as the brick wall of college pitfalls. And she was dealing with those kids, and some of them are children, 18, 19 years old, often away from home for the first time, literally failing, sliding down the slippery slope. And she created a business called College Bound Determination. The brand has now become College Bound Determination, Reality Preparation, Life Advantage. But when she brought it, the challenge was she is in an ocean, and Dave is a coach. He's in an ocean of coaches. Carol's in an ocean of people that talk about get the money for college, get into the right college. That's what parents think. That's it. I got the money. I got him in. We're good. I help my kid. But that won't keep them from hitting the brick wall. And so here's a rich strategy nugget. Please write this down. The clarity with which your brand speaks when it opens its mouth, when it shows up at a podium, when someone looks at the homepage above the fold on the website, when somebody says a testimonial about what it really does well, the clarity with which a brand speaks shapes its impact, making sure that that language the brand speaks with is consistent and transfers energy is vital. So please write this down. It's an action item. Most brands fall flat. That's not the action item. Most brands fall flat. I want you to write that down. What do you do about it? When you have consistent language that's been crafted, some of which is maybe unique for your brand, but it transfers energy that makes people turn their head on their side and go, oh, I like that. That sounds good. I want that. Well, even if they can't tell what it is, you've done the first thing you can possibly do to make sure your brand doesn't fall flat. And sometimes the clarity with which a brand speaks is what I just described, which is an intangible brand promise that makes people, look at the name of David's brand, Your Time to Soar, elevating you on a higher path. I want that. Well, I think it's my time. It's an intangible brand promise, and it stands for all the elements of what David does. So you want to prevent falling flat. And the best way to do that is unique language that transfers energy. So David, you're a speaker at events. I saw you at the Love event out of Miami in September, and I see you're scheduled to speak at the Best You Expo in LA and Los Angeles in March of 2023. How do you ensure your signature speeches and the messages that you share stay congruent and move your brand forward with strategy?
Well, I have a great friend, Rich, who will look at some things, but no, but it really is easy for me because I always had the heart. Before when that wasn't something that Rich will do for you. Like the one thing is he'll help you with a message. He'll help you with the brand. You got to be who you are, and that's why when I bring my bat, it's really one of those powerful pieces of knowing who you are. Your authenticity is really the most powerful piece, and that's why Rich and I had been able to work so well together, because we're both very authentic people. If anything, in your face and in a good way, and that's what we do. Is once you know the characteristics, that's the idea. Is when you have sat down and thinking about the characteristics of who you are and what you want to make sure people know about. For me, I want everybody to hear the stories I share, come away with some sort of knowledge, but also know that they heard it from somebody who really cares about their success. Not only just, hey, I want you to buy a program. I want you to be part of my mentoring this or that, or be on the podcast. No, I really care that you've taken away a message, much like you were just sharing before, one of your richest nuggets.
So I'm about to give you another one. And that, Dave, I'm going to kind of boil down what you just said. The messages that you use are now in consistent brand language. You mentioned characteristics. That's one of the steps. It's actually step 4 of the 7 steps of impact-driven branding. Characteristics your brand must become to make its impacts. And when you have those and you prioritize them and you make sure that you use them in your messaging, you begin getting more and more credit, which you must get in order to make your impacts. You can't think that stuff up and fake it. They've got to come from your heart and they've got to be real, but you must get credit for them. That's the point. If people don't get credit for what they must get credit for, they can't make their impacts. So a large part of the process of branding, including words, messaging, speaking, give you the opportunity to use consistent brand language that transfers energy, and you prioritize those key messages. So the very first one, and here's an action item, write this down. First message in your message hierarchy, overcome the barrier that if you don't overcome it, you lose. Nobody pays attention. They look somewhere else. They don't even understand it. You've got to define that barrier. Your first message hierarchy message overcomes that barrier. Second hierarchy message gives you credit, stated in some way with confidence, even gravitas of what you know, gives you credit for your most important category of expertise that you must get credit for in order to start making your impact. Those two right there are absolutely mission critical. Don't miss them. And if you didn't write them down, here they are again. Number 1, overcome the barrier. Number 2, take credit in some powerful, knowing statement way for your most important category of expertise. This has been fun, David. You're a hoot. I love working with you. In this episode of The Brand Doctor, we have lifted up the brand journey of David Chametzky, the founder of the brand Your Time to Soar, elevating you on a higher path, and the author of the forthcoming book, When Your Heart Says It's Your Time to Soar. And we've given some clarity about clarity. We've given some clarity about Staying congruent and choosing how the brand speaks, because the clarity with which a brand speaks shapes its impact. And some perspective about writing messages in your message hierarchy, and how it comes when words are used that are consistent and that transfer energy. Your messages are much more effective, and they need to be in priority order. You'll get contact information for our guest today in the show notes, so you can take advantage of all that David's brand has to offer. And even more information is available by emailing us directly at our email address, rich@richbrands.org. The Brand Doctor podcast is dedicated to bring you strategies and actions to take your brand to the next level. So from our heart to yours, we encourage you to subscribe to the Brand Doctor podcast and check out the other episodes for strategy nuggets and actions you can take right now. We'll speak to you again in our next episode. And remember, now is the time to define the brand you will become. God bless.